is is on the process of conversion, and they've made friends that are Jewish, that along the way, and but their Jewish friends are not observant. If those Jews are not observant because they're ignorant and because they simply don't know what they don't know, but yet they're interested to know, then yeah, they should grow together with them. They could be each other's helpers to become more religious. But if the non-Jewish couple is serious about their conversion, but yet they see that the Jewish couple is not only not serious about Judaism, but actually the opposite. They mock it, they disregard it, they don't think of it as at all, then you should stop hanging out with them, especially on Jewish holidays and Shabbat, because number one, you don't want them to make sins for you. That's number one, which is already increasing their bill as it is. Number two, it could actually discourage you from converting, because it's as many times as we say it, people still need to hear it over and over again, which is that Jews are not always the best representation of Judaism. There are some Jews that are the greatest representation of Judaism. Rabbi Akiva, Moshe Rabbeinu, Rav Ovadia, the Rambam, the sages, the people that toil over Torah, the righteous women, those people are the greatest representation of Judaism. But, unfortunately, due to our many sins, that's not the majority of our people. The majority of our people are quite the opposite, where they disregard Torah, some of them even make fun of Torah, some of them are against the Torah and anti-Torah. So those Jews, those Ben Gurions of the world, those heretics of the world are not the best representation of Judaism. So it's unfair to say that anyone that's a Jew is a representation of Judaism. So you have to understand that if you're serious about God, you're serious about Torah, you're serious about converting to Judaism and so on, you have to surround yourself with people that are like-minded with the right ideology, or else you risk misunderstanding what Judaism really is about. And as the Rambam, Paskins La'alacha, he says that a person will be influenced by his surroundings. It is a reality. I studied some psychology in school, in high school and in college and so on. And there's the famous battle, nature versus nurture, whether there's the genes or there's the outside influence. And the reality is both of them influence a person. Both of them influence a person. But the Rambam specifically emphasizes that the nurture, the outside influences, your friends, your family, your colleagues and so on, they will influence you whether you like it or not, whether you're a strong person or not, whether you are whatever you are. If you're constantly hanging out with gangsters, it's only a matter of time before that will impact you. Maybe you won't become a full-blown gangster and start thugging it out in the streets and doing drive-bys, but you'll start talking like them. You'll start acting like them a little bit. You may even have a limp. And that's just the reality. It's a reality. I mean, I remember seeing it in high school. It was always the kids, the little white kid nothing, but he lived among the projects, and all of a sudden he decided that he wants to act like one of the black kids from the football team. It's like, why are you talking like this? What do you mean, son? What do you mean? What? I'm not your son, you're 14. What are you talking about? Why are you talking like that? Why are you talking like keeping the projects? What's the matter with you? And it's this little white kid, and he's acting like he's like, I don't know, what's the matter? Because his influence, that's what we saw. That's what we saw. And I know it's funny to hear a rabbi say that, but that's I grew up around this. And then you see this little white kid with his pants on his ankles, and he's acting like he's like, 50 Cent. But he's nothing. He's like a little guy. But guess what? That also happens in the opposite. Happens on the opposite. You have a guy, hangs around a combination of Muslim terrorists and some white people. He becomes Barack Obama. Same thing. Same thing. Same thing. Muslim terrorists, white people, he becomes Barack Obama. Same thing. Doesn't mean that all are like this and all like this. But you are going to be influenced by your surroundings. Yes, I'm not politically correct. No. So the point is that you have a situation, you have a reality. You have a reality, and you have to mock it a little bit just to lighten the issue. But you have to be realistic with yourself. You have to be realistic with yourself. If you're going to hang out with thugs, you're going to be influenced with them. If you're going to hang out with Mechalel Shabbat, you're going to be influenced with them. If you're going to hang out with heretics, you're going to be influenced by them. That's just the reality. Now, what do you do if you are in the process of tshuva? You're getting stronger, but your surroundings are not. That's the real question. That's the deeper question. Why? Because Baruch Hashem, many of the people that are watching this shiur and are laughing along with you are in that process. They are changing, but the world around them hasn't caught up yet. What do you do then? Just today I got a question from a nice kid who used to be a sports fanatic, used to love TV and so on and so forth, and now all you care about is learning Torah. So his question is very different today than it was a year ago, 2 years ago. Why? 2 years ago he's asking me, why? You serious about not watching sports? Today he's asking me, listen, what do I do about not speaking mundane things on Shabbat when my family, all they want to talk about is mundane things? They want to talk about politics, they want to talk about business, they want to talk about sports, they don't want to talk about Torah. So what do I do? That's a serious question. Why? Because that's a difficult one. That depends on who your surroundings are. Not just necessarily where they are in their life, but who they are. If it's friends, you can replace friends like you can replace underwear. But if it's parents, you can't be that way. You can't just abandon your parents because you decide to put a kippah on. Because no matter who and what they are, you still have to be grateful to them to a certain extent. Now, unless they specifically tell you to go violate the Torah, you still have to show them some type of honor. But if they tell you to violate Shabbat, you are not allowed to honor them. If they tell you to go out with somebody that you're not allowed to go out with and do things you're not allowed to do with according to the Torah, not allowed to honor them. There is no honor to a heretic parent that's trying to get you to sin. But if they're accepting, reasonable, they're just not doing what you're doing, but they're relatively reasonable people, you have to honor them. You can't just like say, listen, from sundown to sundown, I'm not going to say a single word to you. It's not going to work out so well. And by the way, it won't be good for the religion either. It's not the right representation of Judaism. Judaism is not a, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai secluded in the cave for 13 years. He was an exception. He was an exception. The average Jew is not going into a cave for 13 years. Just because you decide to keep Shabbat and start learning Torah doesn't mean that you disconnect from the whole world. You have to learn how to bring the Torah to the important surroundings you have. Again, if it's friends, you can throw them out like underwear. That's not so important. Why? Because friendship in reality, the older you get, the more you realize that you're lucky if you die with one friend. Friends go up, friends go down. Friends are like like everybody thinks. Oh yeah, the younger you are, the more friends you have. The older you are, the less friends you have. Why? Because as you get older, you're more picky about who you're going to have friends. When you're young, you just want as many people around you as possible. When you're older, you want real serious people. When you're a little older, you want people that are honest too. When you're a little older, you want people that are honest, good, but also care about you. And so on and so forth. And if you're lucky, you end up with one good friend. So friends, I wouldn't invest so much into. Chavruta is a different story. Chavruta is not a friend. Chavruta is like a marriage. Somebody you study Torah with is like a marriage. But a friend, like someone you socialize with, don't invest too much into it. If these people are conducive to your spiritual growth, continue the relationship. If they're not, and in fact, if they hurt your spiritual growth, disconnect from them like you would from a virus. On the other hand, your parents and siblings, you have to be a little bit more careful with. You have to be a little bit more careful and simply more understanding. But at the same token, you can't abandon Hashem for them either. So what do you do? If, let's say, for example, this young man's question about what do you do about if you want to speak only Torah the entire Shabbat, and they don't really want to talk about Torah the whole Shabbat. So what do? You have to do a few things. Number one, you have to have a plan ahead. Don't plan on the go. Meaning, before Shabbat starts, you already have to have a schedule. Okay, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to go to the shul right before Shabbat. I'm going to get home at such and such time from the shul. After that, we're going to have dinner. I already have one or two things to say about the weekly parasha. Then after I say it, or whenever I say it during that time, anybody else is going to talk, I'm going to try to stay as quiet as possible. and let everybody else talk whatever they want to talk. I'm not going to tell them not to talk. I'm not going to tell them not to breathe. Let them talk, let them do whatever they got to do. Why? Because that's where they are in their life. Now, if they ask me to talk, what I'm going to do while they're talking is try to scan their words and try to figure out where I can take something that I learned and fit it into their conversation. So he's talking about president, so I'm going to talk about Moshe Rabbeinu. He's talking about politics, I'm going to talk about the fight between Moshe Rabbeinu and Korach. He's talking about, so use the things you studied to show them, oh, you know what, that's interesting because I learned something similar in my learning, in my Torah. And try to bring the Torah into their conversation, to show them how the Torah is relevant. Now, if you haven't studied enough, to know how to fit the Torah into conversation, then you shouldn't really be so judgmental of them. And also then, you shouldn't be so judgmental in the first place. You know, so, but if you can't fit the Torah into everything, then okay, try to fit the Torah. So many words, try to finish dinner, then try to say, okay, I got my learning schedule, good night, and don't stay till, the whole night with everybody else. Say, I have my learning schedule, you finish dinner, you hang out with everybody for a little while, be social, be nice, be cordial, and so on. Try to see if people are responsive to what you're saying. If they're responsive, if they're into it, continue the whole night with them. But if you see that they're completely oblivious and careless about Torah, they're mocking it and everything else, pick your legs up, bye-bye. Where are you going? Oh, I got to learn. No, but we're talking. Okay, you talk. Listen, I have a schedule. I have this is my life. I have to finish this tractate. I have to finish this book. I have to finish this. And people, by the way, in the beginning, they'll bust your chops a little bit. But over time, they'll respect you. Why? Because you have a system. You have a schedule. You know when they won't respect you? When they know you're full of it. How do they know you're full of it? Because one day you're like this, another day you're like this. One day you're with the book, another day you're watching sports with them. One day you're with the book, another day you have a girlfriend. One day you're with the book, another day you're cursing like a truck driver. So, if you're really serious, ultimately everybody's going to say, this guy is serious, and they'll respect you for it. But if you're a hypocrite, then guess what? They're going to call you out for it. And they'll mock you more than you can even imagine. Why? Because it's funny. It's funny that you're pretending to be something that you're not. And they're right. So that's the thing. So if the people around you, especially parents, are conducive to your spiritual growth, stay close to them, and little by little they'll grow with you. If they're hurting you, sometimes you have to make a very difficult decision. You have to run away from them. Now, if it's your parents, and like I said, if they're anti-Torah, and there's nothing to do about it, then even that you'll have to cut off. But hopefully, you're not in that situation. But if it's friends don't try a few times, but don't sacrifice your life for them.